Vegas Golden Podcast. We are back for the start of the 16-team field of the NHL playoffs. Back to normal a little bit here in the Stanley Cup playoffs after the qualifying round, and it is looking good for the Vegas Golden Knights, the number one seed in the Western Conference. There's been a lot of crazy things about this season, obviously, but I think if you told someone Vegas was going to eventually be the one seed with the way they were struggling in December, January, whenever it was, they would have thought you were crazy. Obviously, it was a long route to get here, but 3 wins in the qualifying round robin, the number one seed taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. What do you think, Justin?
I like that your biggest takeaway of the craziness that happened is that they ended up at the 1 seed, not that they're like playing the 12 seed in a bubble in Alberta.
Yeah, I was just trying to isolate on.
It's fun to watch. It was fun to watch real hockey again, man. Like I think the last time we talked, they had just finished the exhibition game, maybe, and that is what it is. But the qualifying rounds were awesome to watch. The round robins it was fun. It was fun to watch the Golden Knights play well, and it was a lot of fun. And now we get a 1 versus 12 matchup, something that not even March Madness can really give you, I guess, unless you're, what would that be? Like a third round? I don't know. Whatever. 1 versus 12, Knights and Blackhawks. That starts, this podcast will be up tomorrow, or Tuesday, so it's tonight.
Yeah, right. That would be a Sweet 16 matchup where usually that's where the 12 goes to die. I know we've had some 12s go further, but usually the ones kind of assert their dominance on the 12 in the Sweet 16. And I got to be honest, I kind of think that's what's going to happen here. The Golden Knights, a gigantic favorite in this series. Probably even crazier than the Golden Knights having the 1 seed or playing in a bubble in Alberta. All that stuff is just having the Blackhawks make it this far. They had like 0.00 something percent chance to make the playoffs at the restart. One of the last teams let in. They beat the Oilers in a crazy series with a lot of goals. And here we are. It would seem like Vegas has a gigantic edge. The numbers say so, but at the same time, it is hockey. We see some crazy things. Obviously, this is our big topic for the week to stick to our script. It's got to be the Blackhawks. And what do you see out of the Blackhawks? If they're going to shock the world, if they're going to continue this Cinderella march, so to speak, how could they do it against Vegas?
So we'll save our prediction piece for a little bit later in the show, but I don't think it'll surprise. I don't think we're spoiling anything. If I was going to say, I think Vegas is going to win this series. But the formula for the Blackhawks it's kind of there. I guess you can see a path if you squint, and it involves a really good goalie. Corey Crawford was really good in front of a really bad defense this season. And if they can cash in on a couple of power play goals, their goalie keeps them in it. You can see them picking up a couple of wins. And Patrick Kane rocks. He's still awesome. Jonathan Toews is having a career renaissance offensively. They have a young core of forwards, which matches any team in the league. Like the Blackhawks, they've got some talent on their team. Their defense is just so bad. It's hard to see them making a deep run in the playoffs, even if they didn't have to play Vegas in the first round.
Yeah, they give up just a ton of chances, and Vegas obviously always produces a ton of chances. So you just look at that matchup, and that's troublesome. You're right, though. They do have top-end talent, still on the offensive side, so I guess that could scare you. But I just think I know everyone, and we talked about it last show, kind of played down the round robin. It doesn't really matter. You're going to have to play some tough teams to get to the Stanley Cup anyway. But I got to tell you, I think Saturday's game was huge. Not that I thought that Arizona could beat Vegas or anything, but I just think getting Chicago, at least I don't really have to even squint, like you said, to see a path to Arizona maybe shocking someone. Kemper's been one of the best goalies in the league. What happens when you get a hot goalie in the playoffs? We see it time and time again. I might have to be even harder than squinting to seeing Chicago beat Vegas. I don't see it. I'm with you. Not to spoil my prediction totally. We'll get to that, but it's just this is a tough one for me to buy, especially watching a lot of that Chicago-Edmonton series, and I really didn't think either team really looks that great.
Yeah, completely. You're right about Arizona, too. I don't think it was necessarily a bad matchup for Vegas, but they played the opposite style that Chicago does with a really good defense and a really good goalie, and they struggle to score offensively. And those are the kind of teams that you don't want any part of in the playoffs. That's when we talked about it last week. You don't want to mess with the Wild. You don't super want the Predators, the Coyotes. You don't really want to deal with. Blackhawks, you can't have made a better matchup for Vegas on paper than the Blackhawks. And that's, I don't want the takeaway from this podcast to be, Las Vegas Sunrider guarantees a victory or whatever, but it's it's a tough matchup for Chicago for sure, and Arizona would have been a harder matchup for Vegas. I still think they could have handled Arizona, but yeah, I mean, the Golden Knights might look like they're on the power play for most of this series. That's just how much better their puck possession is than Chicago.
I could see that, and I'm sure that will be the takeaway from this video. But you can just direct your vitriol to me, because I guess I wouldn't say I guarantee a victory, but I don't see this as close. And I know there's people that still are high on Chicago. I think it's stuck in the past a little bit, and I don't know. I don't want to confirm this, but I think like the last 2 or 3 years they have been literally the least profitable team in the league to bet on. I think that goes back to they were once such a juggernaut not that long ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I think people still look at them and think they're more competitive than they are, but hey, they're playing well now. They got through the rounds, and not to pile on them too much, but I do think there's a little disconnect between the actual product they're putting on the ice and kind of the perception of the organization right now.
Yeah, and I think that's in part like Kane, Taves, Keith, Crawford, all the big names that you remember from the Blackhawks dynasty are still there, and I think that's a big thing. But I mean, this is an aging dynasty core that is being infused with a lot of young talent that isn't quite there yet. They have a Calder Trophy finalist. Dominic Kubalik had 30 goals. Kirby Dach is a 19-year-old who was drafted 3rd overall last year. Dylan Strome, Alex DeBrincat. These forwards are good. What they don't have is defense, and that's a problem because Vegas, one of the best puck possession teams in the league, is going to just camp in the Chicago defensive zone. And if Corey Crawford isn't playing his absolute best, which he did for quite a bit this year, like he was really good this year, it could be a very short series.
Absolutely. I didn't even realize how good Crawford had been this year until you said it. I haven't super dug into the series yet, but that's interesting that it was more on the defensive end than him. It makes sense that I know they've given up a lot of chances. I can't believe we've gotten this far. Before we move on, I think we do have to touch on the big narrative part of this series. The last time we heard Vegas and Chicago together, it was for the trade deadline deal that sent in part Robin Lehner, of course, to Vegas, Malcolm Subban to Chicago, now facing off. And I guess that just brings us to the goalies in general. We're recording on Monday. Hopefully we'll get this up really quick. But what's your sense? Where are the Golden Knights going? Are we going to see both Fleury and Lehner again in this series? Who's going to play Tuesday in your mind?
I don't see how they can't go to Robin Lehner. He's been the better goalie since the season restart. He's been the better goalie for the full season. He was the better goalie last season. We're nearing on 2 years since Marc-Andre Fleury has been a better goalie than Robin Lehner. I was just on another podcast, and the guy said it's they didn't bring Robin Lehner in to design cool goalie pads. Like he's here to play games. I think it'd be a different story if Gerard Gallant was still here. I think that quote unquote loyalty, I guess, of being in the Cup final 2 years ago with him would play a role, but Pete DeBoer hasn't had Marc-Andre Fleury as a goalie much longer than he's had, or hasn't had Lehner much longer than he's had. You know what I'm trying to say. I think he's going to go with Lehner, and I think we're going to see Lehner quite a bit. We've got a back-to-back this weekend. Maybe we see Fleury take one of those games, but, I mean, if it's a close series, you saw the Arizona, they got through on their hot goalie. Darcy Kemper played every minute of every game. I wouldn't be shocked to see them give the net to Robin Lehner and him to just take it and start every game.
Okay, well, there you have it. I was not even sure of that. I thought they'd probably go Lehner if you were making me make a guess, but obviously you are closer to the situation. You've heard every word these guys are saying, and I know they're not trying to give much away. I think one of your stories, Pete DeBoer has said they both will play. We have 2 goalies, but
he said that, and I do believe that he believes it. I don't think he's being dishonest with that. I just can't see the idea of Lehner being awesome in a playoff game and deciding to go with a different goalie. And on that podcast that I was on, Guy mentioned, I mean, Chicago's, based on their comments and their Zoom, they seem to be planning for Robin Lehner. So maybe that's just faith in an old teammate or what it is. But if I had to pick, I'm thinking it's going to be Lehner, and we're going to see a lot of number 90 in the net.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it makes sense, especially going forward. I mean, if you get through this series as easily as it sounds like you and I think, then you roll into the next series. If Lehner's still playing well, I mean, you're not going to pluck the guy then, or it's going to be hard to play 2 guys if you really get rolling behind Robin Lehner. And based on everything we've seen for the last the last handful of games the Golden Knights have played all the way back to March. It seems like that's going to give them the best chance to win. I think we're both in agreement there. So, but hey, I still wouldn't say, I wouldn't be completely shocked if we get to tomorrow and Fleury's skating out there. Would you be?
I agree. No, I would not. I wouldn't be shocked at all. I think that that there's a lot of respect for Fleury, both in the room, across the league. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's been a part of two more teams that won it 2 more times. It wouldn't shock me. It would mildly surprise me. We'll put it that way.
All right, gotcha. So yeah, the Blackhawks series, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, first 4 games. So getting really rapid here in the NHL playoffs. I know they're looking to wrap this up quickly. For our next segment, we're going to escape the fortress, kind of talk about what's going on around the rest of the NHL. And today, that's the Western Conference specifically. The other matchups, of course, we're going to reseed after every round, so it's hard to say for sure how it's looking for the Golden Knights. But in the 4, the 4 seed goes to the St. Louis Blues, ultimately the defending Stanley Cup champion. The 3 seed, the Dallas Stars, beat them at in the final seconds of that game. I actually wasn't watching that game, but I did get a text from one of the bigger Golden Knights fans I know, and they were just complaining right away. They was, oh no, we might have to play St. Louis, who's given Vegas trouble time and time again. Now, if everything goes to form, that would be their second round opponent, which I guess is probably a little less preferable than Dallas.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate draw for the Golden Knights for sure. They, as the 1 seed, in theory, have the toughest path or easiest path. But if everything goes chalk, and with the caveat that it almost never does, that would be the Blues in the second round. And that's a really bad matchup for the Golden Knights to have to play the Blues that early in the tournament, a team that historically has handled Vegas pretty well, what happened in the round robin game notwithstanding. But because of the reseeding, we don't know. They'll play the lowest possible seed. So if any team does pull a quote-unquote upset, then Vegas will play them. So if Arizona knocks off Colorado, that would be the best possible option for the Golden Knights. But if there could also be the Canucks or the Flames are also another option. Yeah, if I'm Vegas, I don't want to have to play the Blues and the Avalanche in back-to-back series on my way to the final. So if you're the Golden Knights, I think you're a big Calgary Flames fan to beat the Stars and not have to worry about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an important caveat and one that I don't see this going to chalk. Now, I do know this year, you look at the odds, you look at some of the models, there is a bigger gap between the top teams in the league this year and the rest maybe than there have been in the last several years. But I still I think 2 of these 4 series are too close that it'd be statistically unlikely for us to see all 4 favorites win. I'm talking about Dallas, Vancouver, Dallas, Calgary. Sorry, it takes me a second. And St. Louis, Vancouver. I think both would be close. I would not be shocked with an upset in either. In fact, I think I'm picking Calgary to win, and I think Vegas is going to get Calgary in the next round. And I think that'd be good for them because while the Flames do scare me, I feel like I waxed poetic on the Flames last episode and talked how much I like them. They don't really scare me against Vegas. I feel like Vegas kind of does what they do better. I think that would be a good matchup for the Golden Knights. I'll go with chalk the rest of the way. I think Colorado and St. Louis could have a little bit tougher series than a lot of people expect. But I'm going to say Colorado, St. Louis, and Vegas, Calgary in the Western Conference Final 4.
There you go. And that would be a good matchup for Vegas because then you let Colorado and St. Louis beat each other up a little bit in these condensed playoff series that we're getting, and then you get the winner if things go right for you. So that would be good. Golden Knights, they're in a good spot. The worst possible outcome would be chalk, which, as we mentioned, almost never happens. Last year, all 4 top seeds lost in the first round. So you only need one upset for Vegas to avoid playing the Blues, and which is much more likely than them playing the Blues.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I guess we can narrow it down a little more than last round. At least it's going to be Arizona, Vancouver, Calgary, or St. Louis. And really, you're only really scared of one of those scenarios. You don't want to have to play St. Louis and Colorado back-to-back, but I think you welcome with open arms any of the other 3. They would have had to have done something right to get there, but Vegas would have a clear advantage in those series.
Yep, I agree with all that. I think Vegas is demonstrably better than every team in the Western Conference except for Colorado and St. Louis, which it becomes much more of a coin flip.
Yeah, I think the game on Saturday obviously was so exciting and so back and forth. still a long way to go. Like you said, all the top seeds have lost so much recently in the playoffs, but you got to think a Vegas, Colorado Western Conference final, that would be something to
so
watch.
much fun. That would be that's the one I want the most, because I mean that Colorado game on Saturday was fantastic, right down to the last minute goal and overtime. Like I know it's cliche and people get made fun of, but I mean, sign me up for 7 games of Colorado Vegas with a trip to the Cup final on the line. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think St. Louis could be just as exciting if they end up playing them next round. I will say the Blues were kind of disappointing in this round robin, but we touched on it before. They were resting some guys. It seemed like their number one priority was like, let's make sure we're fresh and ready for the actual playoffs. So do you think we're going to see more out of St. Louis here in this series with Vancouver?
Oh yeah, they're too good of a hockey team, and whether or not they just didn't care about this round robin or they were just using it to make sure that they were ready to go for the playoffs. This is a team that was a 3 seed coming in a division last year, had to play, I think, all road series and still won the cup last year. I don't think they super care about the seeding, and I wouldn't want to have to play them. I think that they're a lot better than Vancouver, and we'll see something out of the Blues.
All right, well, I just couldn't hold it. I just spewed it out, so I'll put you on the spot now. Are we going to see any upsets in this Western Conference round? Who would it be, and why is it the Blackhawks?
I think the best chance at an upset is Calgary-Dallas. I mean, you look at the betting odds, and it's basically even money either way. So even though it's a 3-6 series, it's not really it's not that much of an upset pick, really. I mean, Arizona looked pretty good against Nashville. They didn't really. They were able to get a really good goalie, but that's kind of what you need this time of year. I think they've got the best goalie in the conference right now, and if they get going, that could happen. But I mean, if I'm going to pick an upset, it would be Calgary, which is kind of cheaping out on it. I think the Blues, Avs, and Knights will all win fairly handedly, though, in their first round.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. I think the one, I know I've already said it, but I think Canucks Blues could be closer maybe than we expect. I think the Canucks impressed me down the stretch of that series. I still wouldn't pick against the Blues, but I'm a little squeamish after the way they looked in the round robin, even though clearly that wasn't their priority. But we'll be watching all those going forward and hopefully touch back on them maybe next week. We'll see if this series is still going on. Let's talk about this actual series, though. Now you teased it earlier that we were going to wait on the predictions. Before the looking ahead, let's just look at Vegas-Chicago specifically.
Blackhawks in 4.
Yeah, Blackhawks in 4. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of odds, you could get a good price on that. I haven't seen the exact series of it. I bet that's like 100-1.
But you could.
What do you really think? I'm not going to hold you to the Chicago sweep.
I don't think it'll be a Chicago sweep. I'll say that I think a Vegas sweep is more likely than a Chicago series win. I think that Vegas is that much better. And you look at the betting odds, I saw it as high as -360 today for the Golden Knights to win the series. I saw the Athletics prediction had it at Vegas had a 77% chance, which I've never seen it that high. Like we mentioned earlier, I think that just the contrasting styles play so well into Vegas's hands. Chicago was able to beat Edmonton because they both were content to kind of trade high danger chances with each other, and Chicago got the better end of it, but that won't happen against a better defensive team in Vegas. Vegas is so much better that I think a sweep is decently likely, but I do think that Corey Crawford is a bit of a factor there. I think I can see the Blackhawks winning a game, like I mentioned earlier, where Corey Crawford makes 40-something saves and they score 2 or 3 power play goals. So I'll give them 1 win and say Vegas in 5.
Yeah. Interesting, 77%, though. That's not quite -360. I'm not advocating a bet on the Blackhawks game. That would be a little bit more than -300. So maybe the Golden Knights a little bit too big of a favorite, but then you look back, I mean, with the hold, the Blackhawks are probably like +250, so you're not getting the right price there either. But maybe a little closer than the betting odds say. And I think 5 is the smart prediction. I haven't looked at, some of those models and the statistical setup, but I got to think 5 is probably the favorite for what the series would be. I mean, it's hockey. Usually a team's going to steal at least 1 game, but I've been trashing the Blackhawks the whole time, so I might as well just not stop now. I'm going to pick the Golden Knights in a sweep. I just think they're 2 different levels here. It might be a little bit might be a little bit bold, but we'll see. It does scare me a little bit, you talking about how many high danger chances the Blackhawks had. I just don't see them having as many this series. But Vegas's defense has kind of been up and down. I mean, I could see there being a game where there are some lapses and Chicago gets up.
And keep in mind, a lot of those chances, they were playing the Oilers when Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl aren't on the ice. The Oilers are not a very good team, so they were pretty even. It's a lot of the same thing going on with Chicago and Edmonton, that they have star offensive talent, very little depth, and very little defense. So that's why Chicago was able to match well against Edmonton and be able to pull an upset. I just can't see it against Vegas, but I won't be stunned just because this is hockey and you can lose 4 out of 7 to any team in the league. That could happen. So I won't, say that it's guaranteed or anything like that, or that I'd be absolutely floored, but I would be pretty surprised if Vegas doesn't come out of this series with victory.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the big difference is, Vegas's forwards are just so good defensively for the most part, which we've talked about all year. But you could look at the defense and say just the blue line and say, okay, Chicago's still going to be able to score on them. But I just think as much as we talk about it and as much as people know it, I think we still may underestimate just how good, top end guys like Carlson and Stone are on the other end of the ice.
Yeah, Carlson and Stone are awesome players, and Chicago just doesn't quite have that level of player. Jonathan Toews used to be that two-way forward. He's not, I don't think, at that elite level anymore, though his offensive game is pretty good. So nowadays, but also on the same end, Vegas doesn't have an offensive talent like Patrick Kane. So again, I could see Chicago coming away with a win, maybe 2, but 4 would surprise me.
All right. Well, so our official predictions, it sounds like Justin's going Golden Knights in 5. I'm going in 4, which, I kind of want to slap myself now because I just remember, I think during their Stanley Cup run and maybe even last year, it just seemed like everyone was picking them to sweep every series, and I would just kind of mock it and make fun of it.
They did sweep one of the series.
Yeah, that's true. People ended up being more right than wrong. I mean, they only gave up 1 game to Winnipeg. That was the one everyone was picking a sweep around town in the Western Conference Finals, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Winnipeg is a lot better team than them. There's no way they're sweeping them, and they basically did. Now that I've jumped on the sweep bandwagon, maybe that bodes poorly for the Golden Knights, but we'll see. I think this is going to be an easy series for them. We're in agreement there. We'll be looking forward to breaking it down for you. Every game, all around the clock, LasVegasSun.com. Make sure you check that out. Before we get out of here, though, one last piece of official business to do. It went really well last week, even though someone has to lose the Shining Night competition. Justin and I each week pick a player. We can only pick a player once to go head-to-head to see who wins. And I'll let you do the rundown as usual, Justin. Tell our viewers why you're up 1-0 once again in the postseason.
Well, I picked Alex Tuch, and he had a game-winning goal in overtime and had 3 goals this series. So, he might have been the second best player on the team outside of Mark Stone, maybe Shea Theodore. But you didn't pick either of those guys. You did pick Jonathan Marchessault, who had a really good game against the Avs with 2 goals, including a penalty shot. But Alex Tuch, I think, was the victor here. So we are picking up in the playoff Shining Night right where we left off the regular season.
Yep, so I'm down 1-0. I can't really hate my Marchessault pick, but what can you do? Tuch was the clear winner. At least I didn't burn, one of the really top guys against him. So you're up 1-0, and I think you have the first pick this week.
Yep. I kicked off to you last time after winning the coin flip. So I'm not going to get cute with it. I'm just going to go Mark Stone. He's an animal. He had 5 points in 3 round robin games. He's getting Pacioretty back on his wing. Just not too much to break down there. I think Mark Stone is a really good hockey player and is going to have a really good series.
Whew, all right, yeah, it's hard to go against Mark Stone. I don't know how I combat that. How about I make it real interesting? I'm going to go with just gamble it, roll the dice, go with Robin Lehner. Hopefully he plays the whole time, gets a couple shutouts. I think he's one of the only guys I can make an argument. I mean, if the Golden Knights roll like we think they are, I think just about any skater isn't going to have no chance of beating Mark Stone, but maybe a goalie can.
Yeah, no, I like your logic there a lot, and now I'm kind of hoping that Fleury's the goalie because that would be kind of fun for this contest.
I think I should get negative points if Leonard doesn't start.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you're not in trouble if you lose those first 2 games. It's that third one that's a killer. So even if you fall down 2-0, you still got a chance of getting back in it. But I don't even know when we're doing the next pod. The game schedule is a little weird. I guess we could go next Monday would be after the first 4 games. So that's probably when we'll do this.
Yeah, we'll shoot for next Monday. And yeah, don't forget, Robin Lehner was pretty disappointed when Chicago traded him. So get ready for the Robin Lehner revenge series.
Yes, let's make it happen.
Where he can bank me some points. So it's Lehner versus Stone. Should be fun. Golden Knights versus Blackhawks. Like I said, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Make sure you're checking LasVegasSun.com for coverage of it all. For Justin, I'm Case. Thanks for listening to Vegas Golden Podcast.